Ciao. 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 Ciao.
Hey, it's Green Machine Comics. We got a couple of announcements. This weekend we have Hellboy Day, so come into our store on Saturday and get a free Hellboy comic. I think it's the first comic. It's the 25-year anniversary. We're gonna have buttons. We're gonna have bookmarks. We're gonna have posters. We're gonna have the works. So come in for Hellboy Day. We will be playing Hellboy all day. The various movies, not the new one. But the old movies on our TV, we're going to be talking everything Mike Mignola. Please come through. It should be great. Also, we have 6 of the Aladdin Genie with the Lamp glow in the dark. We haven't put these on Instagram yet. I know we usually put them on Instagram. We will put them on Instagram later today, tomorrow. I guess when you see this, it will be up today. So you need to rush if you see this video and you want this glow in the dark genie, because believe me, they're gonna go really quick. Yeah. So can I put that down? I'm gonna put that down, and we're gonna talk about our comics of the week. So the first comic is, it should be no surprise to anyone, it's Thor, because we have the big War of the Realms event coming. If you don't know War of the Realms, we put a wrap-up, not a wrap-up, a summary of the event? An event prep. We explained all the different books of the event and what we think they're going to break down to. That video is on our YouTube right before this video. Basically, War of the Realms is all the other realms are invading Midgard, and Midgard needs to fight them off. And it should be pretty good. So this is Thor. This is the build-up for the War of the Realms. It centers around Thor and Freya, and Thor is basically searching for parts of his old hammer because he's no longer worthy. Sad face. And so he's finding parts of his hammer to reforge new parts of new hammers and stuff like that. He's got a hammer. It kind of sucks. It looks like knockoff hammer. And Freya's got a hammer. Did you know Freya had a hammer?
Freya's got a hammer.
I don't even think Thor knew Freya had a hammer, but Freya's got a hammer. Everybody's got a hammer. At one point in this comic, Thor has 2 hammers. They're not his original hammer, but they're hammers. Anyway, so this is build up to the War of the Realms stuff. It's pretty much required reading, I would say, before the War of the Realms stuff. So come pick up this Thor. It's coming in 1 month, so really this is your prep right here. Come get this if you want to be involved in the War of the Realms. It's gonna be fun, I promise.
It's hammer time.
It's hammer time. It's got Luke Cage with a hammer.
Oh yeah.
That's all we need to know. Gotta grab a drag off my root beer. Next is the amazing Nightcrawler, Age of X-Men. And if you don't know, this X-Men stuff is basically, there's a utopia, dystopia, there's cracks. X-Men has created a utopia. There are some rules. You can't make love. You can't have children the normal way. Children are birthed out of pods. You can't light guns, so Bishop's in jail. And this is following Nightcrawler, who is an actor in this world and is pretty popular, but there's all these cracks. And I think the last book ended with him having a drunken tryst with one of his coworkers. Yeah, breaking the law. And so that takes place in this. And I don't want to spoil too much, but there is a love speakeasy in this, which is pretty weird. Yeah, kind of. So it has a very speakeasy feel to it. But yeah. So I don't know. I've been having a good time with this Age of X-Men stuff. It's not everyone's cup of tea, it seems. But if you want it, come pick it up. It's pretty good. We're gonna cover another Age of X-Men book in this run, or in this review. So next is Justice League, and I'm trying not to spoil things for you, but let's talk about what happened last time. So we learned about the dimensions. Mr. Mixelplix expanded the dimensions. The first dimension is a point. The second dimension is a line. Third dimension is 3-dimensional, where you get your stuff, is the way he put it. The fourth dimension is time. The fifth dimension, it turns out, is imagination. And it makes everything around us possible. And I really like that explanation. I loved it. And
Disney explanation.
yes, it's very Disney, but I loved it for some reason. And then the sixth dimension, he didn't quite explain, but he sort of said, hey, we need to go into this dimension. And Superman went first, and then Superman came back, and he was aged and very old. And he explained that the Justice League had won. And he took the rest of the members of the Justice League into that dimension to meet themselves in the future. And Well, I can't spoil too much of it, but in the last book they showed some of them. Let's see, Jon Stewart is a White Lantern. The Flash has like kind of a white uniform in this world, so he looks very Godspeedish. I gotta say, yeah, it's pretty wild. And then Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter, John Cena, yeah, John Johns, Martian Manhunter, they're married and have a kid. So it's pretty wild. Things might not be as they seem, and that's all I'm gonna say. You'll need to read the rest of it. It was actually a pretty good book. I had a good time with it. I wouldn't rate this up with the totality, the beginning of the totality run, which I had the best time with. But this is pretty good, and it's kind of cool to see this other version of Superman. He looks, I mean, I like the gold on his uniform. It's not 1 million BC Superman, but it's a pretty cool iteration. So come check this out. Next is Dungeons and Dragons: A Darkened Wish, and I picked this up because, well, I had a really good time with Rick and Morty D&D.
Yeah.
And this is another D&D book. And I've really wanted to pick up those D&D books. And I got to tell you, did not have the best time with this book. Yeah. Did not. I don't know. The writing seemed a little weak. I didn't know the characters that well, which kind of has me wondering if these characters haven't been used in another D&D book. But I did not recognize them from any of the D&D trades. So I kind of think they're new characters, or maybe they're from something else. And I didn't recognize them, so it could be your mileage may vary. But
They're not from the cartoon, are they?
no, I don't think so. No. I don't recognize them at all. I would have recognized those
Yeah.
characters. At least I would have recognized the Dungeon Master. Yeah.
He was in Rick and Morty.
He was. That's right. So anyways, I didn't have the best time with it, but again, your mileage may vary. If you like D&D stories, you like D&D games, you like collecting monster manuals or dice like I did back in the day, you'll probably have a pretty good time with this. I will say that the writing to me felt a little weak. The character building felt a little weak. But, I mean, hey, you've got only so many issues to introduce a new story. Maybe it's a little rocky at the beginning. I'm going to give it another issue before I give it a full rating. Next is Immortal Hulk. And we need to talk about that last Immortal Hulk.
Okay.
Oh, man. Okay.
Lay it on.
So there was an assassin perched in the bushes waiting to take the shot on the Hulk. And so he took the shot and he hit Miss Ross. He hit Miss Ross, the love of his life, or the former love of his life.
Tell him not to take the shot.
And oh my God. So she got hit, and you know, the darkness is Hulk's time. So of course Hulk came out a little pissed off.
Yep.
And then she started to change. So we got to see Red She-Hulk. Is she in this issue? No. I'm sorry. But you know who's in this issue is Samson, his psychiatrist.
Okay.
Yeah, do you know Samson? I forget his first name. It's not Brock. It is, oh God, it's going to drive me friggin' nuts because I do know it. Anyways, so it's really weird. They both have super strength. They both have super leap. At one point, they leap to go look something up. And I can't spoil that for you, but it's kind of cool because meanwhile, Samson is like analyzing the Hulk, and he concludes that he's the Devil Hulk. So he figures it out, and that's all I'm gonna say for you. The rest of this comic you need to read. If you're on board with this Immortal Hulk run, you already know what you're in for. If you're a Marvel fan and you want to jump in, Immortal Hulk is great right now, and I think I mean this book is a little confusing because it takes place after an assassination attempt, but I don't think you'll be too confused if you jump in here. If you're a DC fan and you want to see some of the best that Marvel has to offer right now, the Immortal Hulk is literally some of the best. I would rank this in my top 3 Marvel books right now. So go pick this up.
Speaking of which, oh no.
Oh no, I would not rank this in my top 3. I don't hate it. We'll just talk about it. So this is Wolverine Infinity Watch. If you don't know, we had an Infinity Wars event, and I was not the biggest fan of it. I have to be honest. I didn't like it. It
dropped off in like book 3.
it felt gimmicky. They folded the universe on itself. It was like everything was overpowered. It was a little cheesy. And out of it comes the Infinity Watch. And basically what the event did was it established that the Infinity Stones have their own mentality now, their own minds. And they've gone out and bound themselves to like specific people. And they talk about it in this, but old Adam Warlock is a bit heartbroken because his favorite stone went off and found somebody else. Which I think is funnier now. The soul stone is like peace. But so Wolverine is basically tasked with finding one of the poor unfortunate souls who has suddenly found himself bound to a gemstone and doesn't know what that means. And so he's sort of doing that, and he's doing that with Loki. And it's quite the odd couple, I have to tell you. It's a pretty wild odd couple, and there's a big bad that shows up in the middle of this. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It felt a lot like most of those Infinity War books where I was not very invested. That's just my take on it. There are some funny scenes. I laughed out loud a couple of times. I did like this new character and sort of how he deals with things. I love seeing Loki do what Loki does best. So if you like those things, you know you'll like this book. If you like the Infinity Wars event, you'll like this book. If you like Wolverine, you'll probably like this book. I, on the other hand, as much as I wanted to, I didn't have the best time with it. So I'm going to say it's just lukewarm. It's a lukewarm book. So if you like it, you'll like it. And, you know, if those aren't your cup of tea, avoid it. Next is the Nightwings. And they've spray painted, they've added the S.
It kind of reminds me of Red Hood and the Outlaw.
Okay. We're going a little far with this Nightwing shtick. I miss the old Nightwing now. He's still running around with that weird, like rubbing mud on his eyes and running around with a rope thing. I don't hate it. They basically, if you haven't been following, Dick Grayson got a head trauma. He rebranded himself Rick Grayson because he can't remember his past. On top of that, he gave up being Nightwing, but 3 cops and a fireman, which sounds like a joke.
It does.
3 cops and a fireman walk into Nightwing's lair and find some costumes. And they try to become the other Nightwings. And there's one that is too gung-ho, there's one that is too gun-shy, there's one that feels just like Nightwing, and there's one that is awesome. The fireman is just awesome. I want more of him. Anyways, I basically Rick figured out that he can't just walk away from the hero lifestyle. It just finds him, and he's been sort of rubbing soot on his eye, kind of.
Makeshift kind of camo.
Yeah, makeshift camo, and then he's been using a rope, and I kind of hate that. And they're treating him like he's the D-lister. Like, they're like, oh, yeah. And he's like, yeah, right. Like, okay. Like, I'm not technically the D-lister, but you can think that. I don't know. I think the shtick is starting to get old. One thing I did love about this, though, is Barbara Gordon shows up throughout these comics. And she's finally coming to terms that Rick is calling himself Rick. And she needs to, like, accept Rick as Rick, instead of trying to find good old Dick Grayson and force the old persona on, where it's just gone from him. He's got a TBI. So I like that. I think the writing is strong there. I am not liking the direction with all these different Nightwings. I want to see something happen. I don't know what it is. Maybe tragedy. But I want something to happen. And I think maybe I'm just mad that Rick is running around in that cheesy uniform. He's better than all of them. But whatever. I'll let it play out. Next, we need to talk about Naomi, and for all the wrong reasons. You see, unfortunately, our Naomi subs, we love you very much, but you're going to have to wait a week because all of our Naomis were damaged. They are all damaged. They're either munched here or they're munched here, and it's pretty bad. So if you're one of our subs, come in and we will let you look at the damaged copies. And if you really, really want to buy a damaged copy, we'll let you have one and swap it out later when we get the better ones in. Because I know people are going to want to read this story. But we can't in good conscience sell you a damaged copy when you're a sub. We're going to get you a better copy. Meanwhile, let's talk about the story. And oh my God. So what do we know about Naomi? She had a Superman obsession. She wanted to see Superman. Superman wound up in her town. She didn't see him both times. And then she started asking about metas. And it turns out there were metas in her town the day she was adopted. And so she starts asking questions. And one of the people that she's asking questions to is a guy who runs the local, I don't want to say chop shop, garage mechanic. He's a mechanic. And he's got a picture of a gal on his refrigerator that sort of looks like Naomi. And it goes from there. And this is Bendis at his best. The twist that is thrown in here did not see coming. For all of our speculation in this comic shop, and believe me, we had 10 to 15 loyal comic fanatics discussing who Naomi could be, and the way it went was completely unexpected. Did not see it coming at all. However, I'm pretty excited for what this might mean. There's a new hero on the rise, and I like where they're going with it. That's all I'm going to say. So Naomi this week was great. Was absolutely great. The third issue is a must-buy. If it's not too late to jump in it, if you want to come get the second issue, we got a couple of the second issues left, but the third issue is a must-buy, and we're going to have some undamaged copies next week. So come see us next week, unfortunately. The next book we're going to cover is the BPRD, The Devil You Know, and for people that don't know or that are uneducated on this is Hellboy. This is Hellboy. And yeah, so this features a fight with Hellboy, a very lovely little apocalypse, I might say. It was kind of sudden and a little confusing as to why this was happening, but it does get explained in the end. And it's a very violent and wonderfully written or wonderfully drawn apocalypse. So there's a lot of action in this book. There's not a lot of explanation until the very end. So, but I mean, if you buy BPRD or even Abe Sapien or pretty much any of the Hellboy stuff, you know what you're getting. You're getting, you know, a quality written book, but sometimes they don't spell things out for you. They don't hold your hand. They let the plot carry itself forward, and they let the art carry it with it. So honestly, you know what you're getting if you're getting Hellboy, and this is a great Hellboy book. So go pick it up. Next is Grumble, and I confess, I knew nothing of Grumble. We don't even know how Grumble found its way into our store. But here it is, and oddly enough, had a great time with it. Had a great time with it. So Grumble features a girl who I believe is a half-breed demon, and she's got a demon mom and a demon dad, and they are on the run because they've lost some kind of war. And the things that are stalking them are other creepy, dark, shadowy, like hell, paranormal type creatures that are stalking them. Meanwhile, all humans, because of whatever enchantments, all humans see them as human, and they can suggest things to people. So they've been suggesting things to bad people and like wrecking bad people and screwing them over in funny ways. And I kind of like this. I like seeing this. I like the storyline. Like just being on the run type thing is fun to me. So I had a good time with this, and it was shocking because this is like book 5, I think it is, and I had no concept for anything going on in the story. So I would say this is a good jumping in point. It is a little confusing, but if you like this sort of thing, you know who you are. You'll have a good time with this book. Who put this book out? Because it's not Image. God, it's Albatross. Albatross Funny Books. Sorry, guys. I'm super thirsty and have a lot to talk, so I run amok sometimes. Next, we're going to do Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and let's talk about this. Miles is in trouble with the vice principal, who is convinced Miles is a bad student. He's a terrible student. Miles is nervous about cutting school one day to go to the hip-hop museum. One day. But he's convinced Miles is a bad student. That's weird. Anyways, so if you're wondering what this is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. This is almost exactly Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, there are scenes that are very clearly inspired by it. So I had a great time with this book, but, you know, I'm an 80s kid. I have no idea how kids these days would take this, but it was a pretty fun time. It was funny to see. I laughed at multiple times, and I really love the art from this Miles Morales book. It's Javier Garron. He's got a line over the O. I never know how to pronounce Garron. Okay, there you go. Well, anyways, this is just good stuff coming out of this Miles Morales line. I've had a great time with this Miles Morales run so far, and we're only 4 books deep. So, anyways, if you're a Spider-Man fan, go pick this up. If you're a Marvel fan, this is some good stuff. If you like a little fun in your escapism, you don't like the gritty, you like the good times. And this is the same writer that wrote that really good portrayal of Captain America. Yeah. Come pick this up. It's a great book, honestly. One of my top 10, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah, Mueller. Bueller. That's how it went. Bueller. Who was it? That was Ben Stein, wasn't it? That was Ben Stein. Good old Dry Eyes himself. Is he still kicking?
Oh yeah, he's still around.
Oh man. Did you know he was like some sort of consultant of the Reagan?
Economics.
Yeah, that's
He actually
wild.
worked for, what was it, the Reagan administration?
Yeah, the Reagan administration. That's wild.
I know.
And then he hosted that game show.
Yeah.
Hey, anyway, we're running off on a tangent. Sorry, there's some good old member berries.
That's Fred from Scooby-Doo right there, man.
I mean, I think he was drawn to sort of look. I don't know what he's supposed to look like. Looks like my dad in like the early '80s or something. Next, we're gonna talk about Archie Forever, and I don't think I've hid this, but the Archie stuff is great right now. It's really, really good. And keep in mind, I don't recommend the Betty and Veronica books because honestly, they're not written for me. They're not my cup of tea. And there's a couple other ones I don't recommend. The current Riverdale book was not that great, I didn't think. But this Archie Forever line is outstanding. It is great stuff. If you like the Riverdale show, you'll love this. So basically, Jughead in this one, he's been attacked out in the forest. That's what the last one ended with. And so he's sort of missing. Meanwhile, Archie and Sabrina have like a secret relationship. He's hiding she's a witch. She's hiding that he's, I don't know, running rampant with all the gals, I guess. They have a secret relationship that they're keeping hidden from everyone else. But good old Cheryl Blossom, the other gals go to Cheryl Blossom and they set up a Josie and the Pussycats concert. And while they're there, they do a secret bachelor auction. And guess who gets thrown in the auction? First thing. Oh, what a scandal. Those conniving gals. So I don't know. I'm wrapped up in the soap opera that is Archie. I'm having a good time with this. As a 40-year-old man who has never really been too big into Archie, I'm having a great time with this series. So Archie Forever, go check this out. I only rate the Archie Madhouse books above the Archie Forever books. They're the only ones that are better in the Archie line. Like the rest of it. Yeah, they're good. They're good. Yeah. Next, we're going to talk about Invisible Kingdom. And this is a number one. And I kind of love this. I really love this. This is a very sci-fi story. There's two groups. There's a group that is trying to make a delivery. And it's very sort of dystopian, like cyberpunk type thing. They've got some delivery guarantees, so they're trying to make the delivery. Meanwhile, their ship is sort of falling apart on them. So they're dealing with their trauma. Then there's a woman who has blindfolded herself and is walking through all these like science fiction landscape towns. And she's basically reciting something as she walks through because she's going to become a nun, spelled None. Nun. Not a nun. She's going to the nunnery to become a nun. Which is weird, right?
Yeah.
But meanwhile, while she's going there, like somebody points her in the right direction. You know, other people are laughing at her, but somebody's helping her. She gets there and she comes to find out that the other people have taken the vows. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And she gets her veil. And then she discovers that she might have a tie to that company that the other people have a tie to. And they don't know each other yet, but clearly they're going to be put on a collision course. And I like this. This is some great sci-fi stuff. The world building was outstanding. I want to know so much more about the world building. And then on top of that, like they've drawn some of the they've showed some character sketches of different characters, of different ships in the back of this. I want to know more about this world. So Invisible Kingdom, I'd say go buy this if you're a sci-fi fan. This is a darn good showing. And this is Dark Horse. This is Burger Books. This is Dark Horse imprint. Okay.
All right.
So good showing, Dark Horse. Or Burger Books, sorry. Next is... God, you guys will excuse me. I've had so much root beer. Next is The Earth's Mightiest Heroes, The Avengers. This is Avengers 17. And this, what do we know about this? There's been a vampire civil war.
Yes. Dracula is on the sidelines right now.
Yeah, he's lost. He is lost. He has lost. And let me tell you, he went to Russia, and Russia sent him somewhere crappy. What's the crappiest place Russia could send him? Think about it.
See, like,
I mean, there's two really crappy areas of Russia, right? There's one you can't go because of nuclear fallout, and there's another one that's just really cold. Which one do you think they would send Dracula? No, he way worse. So, that's what's going on with that. Meanwhile, Blade has accepted a position on the Avengers. It's nice to see Blade back. It's good to see him playing well with others. Turns out he doesn't play well with others. And that's covered in this book. Had an excellent time with this Avengers. I loved everything about the Vampire Civil War. Frankly, I think the Vampire Civil War should have been expanded on. I think Marvel should have done more with that. I think that should have been an event. It was only like, 4 books? Mm-hmm. I so wanted to know more. So, Earth's Mightiest Avengers 17, it's a wrap-up for their current book. Not their current, not run. Yeah, whatever, mini event.
Side quest.
Yeah, side quest. It's a wrap-up for that. However, it's a pretty good showing. I would say you could even go pick this up and not be terribly confused. If for nothing else, there's some pretty funny Ursa Minor. Is it Ursa Minor, Ursa Major?
Yeah.
Which one is it? The bear one.
Oh,
The one that's a bear. I think it's Major. I think it's Ursa Major. Don't worry about it. Anyways, go pick it up. It was a good run. I had a great time, and even though it's the end of the Vampire event, you're going to want to read that. It's great. Okay, the next book we're going to go into is The Age of X-Men, Next Gen. I said we were going to talk about another Age of X-Men, and I think this honestly is one of the stronger books. I don't think it's the strongest. I think I would rate one other book above it, but I've had a good time with the newer X-Men, the younger class, I guess you could say, and it centers around Glob, and basically he knows that there's cracks in this utopia, dystopia, and he's trying to convince others, and at the same time he's trying to keep one of his friends out of trouble, and it's kind of endearing. I sort of love that character. But I've been having a really good time with the Age of X-Men books. I know they're not for everyone, but if you like the mutant stuff, if you're a Marvel fan and you want to jump in on stuff, it's not too late to get out on these Age of X-Men books. I think we have them all, so just come on through and pick them up. Pretty darn good showing. Who is the writer for this one? It is Brisson, and the artist is Toe. Okay. Next is Spider-Man #1, City at War, and I didn't play the game, but I have heard from a pretty good source that this is just the game condensed. This is just the game storyline. So if you love the video game, come pick it up. If you didn't see the video game and you want to know what that plot line was all about, because that character actually wound up in Spider-Geddon, come pick this up. You know who you are. I don't know. I didn't have a bad time with it. It's pretty, I don't know. I want to say it's sort of telegraphed, sort of storylines. They've changed it a bit, but you know, it's pretty much standard. You know what you're getting into with Spider-Man. Yeah. It's your Peter Parker stuff.
You get bit by a radioactive spider.
Yeah, it's your typical legend stuff. You know who the bad guys are, who the good guys are.
Gotcha.
Next is a book I'm really, really happy to talk about, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy, issue number 3. And Guardians of the Galaxy, this run has been really, really good. They've got a new cast for Guardians. They've got a whole new team. Cosmic Ghost Rider's on it. Who else is on it? Groot's on it. Star-Lord's on it. Which are the only standard members. I think the beginning had like Silver Surfer, Nova Star. Who else is there? Moondragon, Beta Ray Bill, who is one of my favorites. And on top of that, there are Dark Guardians, and there are answers for every one of the Guardians on the Dark Guardians team. And currently, Cosmic Ghost Rider has flipped teams temporarily, I think. I think he's going to wind up back on the Guardians of the Galaxy. But there is a Guardians member who has been missing in action for a while. And you know that at the beginning of this, they had like a whole bunch of people who looked like they were going to be members going into a black hole. Donny Cates previewed Silver Surfer Black, which will no doubt be tied to that, whatever happened there. Okay. But on top of that, there's another Guardians member who has been missing for a while since the last Marvel event. And if you remember the wrap-up, you know who I'm talking about. And he may be making an appearance. So you should be picking this up. You should be grabbing this off the shelf so that you can figure out who it is and whether or not they're going to come back. So that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take that.
Next is Uncanny X-Men. And, oh man, we need to talk about this because good old Rosenberg. Man, Rosenberg. I feel like Rosenberg is a Porsche that you just bring out of... You bring him out of the garage and you wax him and maybe you drive him fast on a Sunday and then you leave him back there for the rest of the week because he is an epic, epic vehicle. This man can tell a story like no other. It's beautiful. And what he's done with the X-Men is amazing. I'm having such a good time right now. Okay, what do we know? The X-Men have reformed. They've Cyclops is back from the dead. Wolverine's back. They've been gathering up mutants, and they put out a list of people they got to take down. And one of them was Dark Beast, except for they picked him up, and now he's kind of on their side. And he says in this, he says, oh, like I'm an X-Men now. And they're like, no. like, come on, man. You're Dark Beast. So there's that. On top of that, they're trying to tackle all these problems. And what I love about this book, one of the scenes especially, and I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, is they go somewhere and the people accuse them of being the Avengers because they're trying to solve something. They accuse them of being the Avengers, and it's pretty nice to see the X-Men say, like, let's show them who we are. Like, I had such a good time with it. It's such a good showing, and the art is great. On top of that, they keep throwing Multiple Man into this mix, and I love everything with Jamie Maddox. Like, he's just a complete lunatic, and I love that character. So, anyways, Uncanny X-Men, this is a must-buy if you're an X-Men fan. I think this is a must-buy if you're a Marvel fan. You need to jump in on this. If you're a DC fan and you want to figure out what all the mutant hype is, Uncanny X-Men is a great book to jump in on. Do it. Okay, next we're going to talk about Monstrous. And so if you don't know, we got Monstrous 1, Monstrous 2, Monstrous 3 in trade. Monstrous 2 won the Hugo last year. Monstrous 3 was a pretty darn good showing. And this all kind of centers around a gal who's got like a lot of... I don't want to say a lot of darkness. She's got a dark monster inside of her. And I don't know how to explain all of this. But basically this book centers around the fact that her dad... Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Her dad has drugged her and put a prosthetic arm on her arm where she was missing one. So he drugged her and Vadered her.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's... if you like Monstrous, you know who you are. You kind of like fantasy. You like a lot of darkness and a lot of twists in your fantasy, a little bit of grit, and some beautiful art and storytelling. So this is, I wouldn't say this is the book to jump in on. I haven't read Monstrous in a minute, and I was a little bit confused, but it's getting there. I would say give it another book or two, and that's probably your jumping off point. However, if you are a Monstrous fan, and you know who you are, this is a great book to own. It was a pretty good time. Next, we're going to talk about Spider-Man life stories in the 60s. In the 60s. So this takes place in 1967. Or rather, it starts off in 1967. And it deals with the Vietnam War. And literally has Spider-Man wondering if he should sign up for the draft. Because, you know, he can do more for the war effort. And he's not sure.
I would read that comic.
He's not sure. Yeah. And meanwhile, guess who's over there fighting in the war? No, Iron Man.
Oh.
Iron Man's off fighting in the war. And meanwhile, Cap is wondering if fighting in the war is the right thing, because he's not sure if he agrees with this war. And it's kind of cool to see their take on this. On top of that, Flash Thompson is signed off. Peter Parker goes to give Flash a send-off. And there's an appearance of the Green Goblin. This is a great book. I had a really good time. There was so much content in this book. I felt like I read a whole trade paperback by the time I was done. So this is the 60s era. The next one I think they're doing is the 70s era. They're just jumping right to it.
Okay.
But this takes place in 67, and 68 is the wrap-up. So there's a good chance it's just going to continue the story. If it doesn't, if it picks up in the middle of the disco 70s, I won't care. I'll probably still have a good time with it. Because this was a strong showing. Who is this? Oh, this is Zdarsky. Oh, Bagley, Dell, and Armada. So you've got some good writers and artists on this book, so come check this out. I had a great time with it. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you know who you are, you'll love it. If you're a Marvel fan, you'll love it. If you're a DC fan and you want to dip your toes into something that's kind of a throwback and a little bit weird, I had a good time with it. So next, we're going to talk about Bitterroot. And Have we hid how much we love Bitterroot?
Very well.
Yeah. Oh man, it is such a good book. The art is great. The storytelling is great. They've used literal monsters as an in-your-face metaphor for racism, and there are multiple types of monsters. Like the people that fight the monsters wind up becoming the monsters sometimes if they're not careful. Yeah. So it's quite beautiful what they've done with this. And granted, this one, there is not a lot of the deep metaphors hidden in this one. This one is a lot of action because this story's been building for about 3 books. I think there's 4 books. This is book 5. And they're getting to the point where they're going to wrap up this story arc with this one. And it was a good wrap up. There's a lot of action, though. If you haven't been reading Bitterroot, you're crazy. But if you haven't been reading Bitterroot, this is not your jumping off point. Come pick up a couple of the back issues. I think we have 1 or 2 of the back issues. But if not, wait for the trade and pick it up. It's a great, great story. Next, we're going to talk about Batman All the Way Down. It says, what do we know about what's been going on with Batman? Can you remember? No, well, yeah. So the last actual Batman comic featuring a bunch of the action that was going on, we saw Thomas Wayne actually take out Batman and take out Alfred at the same time. And so Thomas Wayne is in cahoots with Bane. And Thomas Wayne, that version of Thomas Wayne is a brutal Batman that does not have much mercy. And so he's fighting his own son. So it's another alternate timeline, Thomas. And we know that he didn't want his son fighting crime. He wanted his son to live a happy life. And so I think he's a bit disappointed. Meanwhile, Batman has come to the conclusion through a series of nightmares, which have all played out like some beautiful poetry, that he's strapped to a machine and he's been being bombarded with toxic gas, and that's what's giving him all these visions. And they're great. They're wonderful. Normally, I really, really do not like the sort of dream sequence trope. It often feels like they're stalling for time. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, full disclosure, King might be stalling for time so that he can work out more of his intricate plots, and that's why these are like that. But these are not something to be missed. I honestly feel like these are something to be cherished because every single one I read is just this beautiful story. And this one, there's not a lot of words in this one, but it was still a really, really good story. I liked it a lot. I noticed there's random beeping, and the person that the Batman is fighting, his face looks like one of those heart monitor machines. So, so many good clues in this. Meanwhile, the last one, I think the last one had Catwoman and The Question, and they were talking beautifully about sort of Batman's relationship with Catwoman and his relationship with Gotham, and it was so good. I mean, go pick all of the Nightmares books up. I wouldn't normally recommend Dream Sequence books. However, they're unapologetic about it, and they're like poetry. They're beautiful. I can't wait to actually, I'm going to grab that trade when it comes out. Sure. Next, we're going to talk about Pearl. And oh my God, I'm so happy to see Bendis and Gaydos. They had a 6-issue run with Pearl, and they told this amazing story. And the art, oh God, the art is like watercolors layered on top of watercolors in this really, really cool effect. Very colorful, and the way the art flows just adds to the story. I love everything about this book, and I'm so glad to see they're continuing it. I don't think they put a limit on it. I just think they said continuing run. Yeah. So basically, if you don't know, Pearl is a tattoo artist. She kind of works for the Yakuza, and then on top of that, she's on one side of a gang. She falls in love with a guy who's on another side of a gang, and you sort of see where this is going, kind of Romeo and Juliet, but not really. Like, they navigate it, and there's assassins, there's hitmen, there's porn kings, I guess you'd call them, that run like some big business, and they try to wage war with them, but they are dumb crime kingpins. It's great. It's great. There's so much character in this story. There's so much character in this art. You should be buying Pearl. Just go buy Pearl. If for nothing else, there's a really, really hysterical scene where some white girl approaches her and starts saying that she's really into Japanese women, and is that racist? And then she says, like, I'm really into you. And Pearl just like stares at her like, what the hell is your problem? It's so awkward and funny. I love everything about this book. Go pick it up. Next is Lazarus Risen, and this is a weird book. I get real itchy for books. First of all, I was excited because this is like a trade paperback, which is kind of dope. However, one of the things I get itchy about is when books need to give you a few pages of like text to explain what is going on for a book that hasn't been running as far as I know. This is an issue 1. But it's Greg Rucka, so, Rucka's relatively good, and I like the action. It's about, like, there's warring families, I guess space families, I don't know what you call them, space cyberpunk families?
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Sure.
And there are some assassins or highly trained soldiers, and they have, like, high-tech armor, and they do high-tech stuff, and I dug that. It was very, like, Starship Troopers, like the book, not the movie. And so I dug that sort of thing. The art is a little grittier than I like. It was almost okay. The storyline was a little confusing at times. I'm not going to say that this is a must-buy. You do get a lot of book for your dollar. This is a giant book. However, I'm going to give it another issue before I make a judgment call on it, because it is Rucka, and I do kind of like Rucka stuff. It's hard to tell. I would say, I don't know, if you really, really want a sci-fi story, come pick this up. If you like Rucka, come pick this up. If you're on the fence, wait another issue before you jump in. That's all I'm going to say about that. Next is Meet the Skrulls. What do we know about Meet the Skrulls? They are hiding in the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
They are trying to prevent Tony Stark from creating a machine that will be able to identify where Skrulls are at any time. And while they're doing that, they are sort of keeping their identity, and it's very, very much the Americans. If you've seen The Americans, which is that story of that family that's like a Russian spy family hiding in plain sight in America, that's what this is. This is Marvel's version of sci-fi Americans. So it's okay. I'm having a good time with it so far. I don't think it's the best showing, but I want to know more about a story. And when I want to know more about a story, that to me is usually a sign of something good. So I would say give this one more issue, but if you like The Americans, you like spy stuff, come pick this up. You'll have a good time. Oh, can I talk about this Lazarus Risen thing? The one thing that I liked about this was they had a vape pen, a futuristic vape pen that they smoked at one point. I'm calling it the space vape.
Okay.
I just wanted to make that joke. Well, Venom. And, man, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack. So, let's see. Eddie Brock met Venom's, the symbiote god, which was called Null. Him and his symbiote killed Null, but in the process, they sort of destroyed the symbiote's psyche for at least a while. And at that point, it was painful for him to be alone, so he was sort of separating himself from his symbiote, which took the form of a dog, which was rather beautiful. I love that. And then he went back to San Francisco to look up his dad. His dad was hanging out with someone who he thought was his brother. And last issue, we had some wild revelations. We found out that, let's see, what did we find out? We found out it's not a brother, it's his son. 2, I kind of bumped the mic. 2, we found out the symbiote had been faking his cancer to keep him with, to make him not want to leave the symbiote, so that because he didn't want to die. So like the symbiote was quote unquote keeping him alive, but it was faking cancer. And then on top of that, the sister that he thought he killed didn't exist. So the symbiote did that to make him codependent. So that it was messed up. And well, I liked it. I like twists like that. I like changing. I don't like when the source material stays the same and is stagnant. I like when people change things and go in a different direction. It doesn't mean that this run is the defining run, but it's something different, and I like it. However, a lot of fans didn't like it. Donny Cates started getting death threats. Wow, you guys. Like, that's wild, man. Understand that the writers and artists have certain runs, and the runs, sometimes they basically run with it wherever they want to go, and people give them a little bit of free rein and then reel it in. And, he went in a wild direction because he's Donny Cates, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think, honestly, that we're going to see how this plays out. It might not play out the way you thought it was. It might be like Secret Empire, where things went off in a different direction. But granted, that's a terrible example because I hated Secret Empire. But I'm loving this Venom run. And this book had a really good time with it. I don't want to say what the twist is because it's so wild. But we've seen it kind of before with another symbiote, so that's all I'm going to say. Yeah. So, anyways, I would say this is a must-read if you're a Venom fan. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you know you can jump in on Venom and have a good time. If you're a Marvel fan, the Donny Cates stuff is great. It's really, really great. If you're a DC fan and you want to dip your toes in something, maybe wait, because this is mid some stuff, and you might be a little confused. And in fact, I think I'm going to give you that warning. Like, this is wrapping up something, so wait until the next book. Actually, wait till the War of the Realms and then jump in on Venom. Yes. Okay, last book on our list is Rat Queens, and these are one-shots. I think they put 4 one-shots, and they're all in, like, different sort of themes. And this particular one involves a cyberpunk dystopia. So if you've ever wondered what would happen if you take some fantasy characters and you throw them in some cyberpunk dystopia, and you at one point you give them a van that looks like the A-Team with a 50 cal mounted on it, and a dragon attacks and they flip it off, this is the book for you. Because there is so much weirdness in this book, and I loved it. I loved it. I love the Rat Queens. I like a lot of the funny fantasy, like cursing, drinking, doing weird drugs, and flipping things off. That's the Rat Queens in a nutshell. So if you like that sort of thing, and you like a little bit of cyberpunk stuff, this is definitely the book for you. It's a one-shot, I think. I don't think they're continuing it past this. But we're going to get 4 more weird one-shots tied to the Rat Queens. So, yeah, go check this out. And that's everything, right? Almost. Oh, we got to do the drawing.
Yeah.
God, I've almost got the hiccups right now.
Can you tell them anything else?
I don't think so. Come by Saturday. Come by Saturday and get some Hellboy stuff. Hang out with us. Talk Mike Magnolia. Magnolia. He has a weird name. Are you ready?
Sure. Why not? Let's go.
Okay.
I'm gonna try it from here. See if I can do it.
I don't think you can do it from here.
I got the numbers right here. Give it a shot.
Okay, 17.
Number 17 is gonna be Carl Mueller.
Oh my God, Carl, you won something. Come see us. You won a poster, man. Next is 148.
Number 148. Almost there. Wait for it, big bucks, no whammies. Michael Gomez.
Michael Gomez, you won a poster. And the last number is 139. That should be close.
139, yeah. OG Demandin.
Augie Demandin, you won a poster, so come see us. And that's everything. Come see us this weekend. Come hang out with us. Come buy some Aladdin Pops. We need money.
Oh, yeah. We got BOGO sales going on right now, too.
Oh, we have a lot of sales going on. You need to come in.
Buy one, get one pop half off.
Buy one, get one pop half off.
Buy
a shirt, get a second shirt half off. Is that?
Those are the 2 sales we're promoting right now. We're thinking about that.
We got 25% off Mark trade paperbacks.
Yep.
So
Big
come
deal.
get that.
Yep.
Kids
backpacks are 25% off.
Oh, yeah. Kids backpacks 25%. I don't know if they can hear you over there, so I'm just repeating
Oh,
it.
no,
Can
they
hear?
can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't know. I'm just being Eddie the Echo up here. I got nothing. Okay. Well, that's our show. We'll see you next week with more books. Do the dance.